To any parents listening, something that has blown me away my entire life is that Mrs. Caddo knows the name of every single student on this campus every single year. How many years has she been doing this? 25 years? And it's not just that you know the names of everybody, but I remember every single year you pull every single student for a happy birthday prayer. You not just know them, but you're praying over them. And that was just a tiny way of being known internally as a student, to feel, when you feel known, you feel safe. And then when you feel safe, I think you can explore, to think out of the box, but also to challenge yourself.
More than a decade after walking across Trinity's graduation stage, this episode highlights James and Beth Brooks as they share how their time at Trinity continues to shape their faith, their family, their marriage, their work, and even their parenting to this day. This is an episode about the long view. What lasts from a Trinity education once all the tests and deadlines and projects and grades are behind you? If you've ever wondered, what kind of men and women do Trinity students become, or is the investment really worth it in the long run? This episode is for you. Welcome to Different by Design. Thank you for joining us today on Different by Design. I'm your host, Matt Dixon, along with Trinity's founder and head of school, Liz Caddo. Liz, how are you today?
I am great, and I'm very excited to have our guest today.
Good. Today we're doing something special. In celebration of our 25th anniversary, we're going to look back again, as we have in some other episodes this season. But this time we're looking back more than a decade with two members of our very first graduating class, James and Beth Brooks, class of 2012. They're here to share with us their story, how Trinity shaped them, shaped their faith in Christ, their worldview, now into their careers in life and parenting and everything else that comes. So this episode is really about impact, what lasts, what carries into adulthood. And how does a school experience impact us long after graduation? So James and Beth, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
And we also have another special guest, not just you two, but who else is here? Just in case you hear some
Legos in the background, my daughter Millie, who is 3 this week, is here as well.
That's
so
awesome.
Just happy to be here. Hopefully a future Trinity night as well.
Yes.
Millie, welcome. I don't know. Okay. She's looking. That's great. Well, I do just want to start off and ask, what was it like for you guys being a part of Trinity's first graduating class? Obviously, I know there's probably a lot of elements of this, but as you look back, what made that unique?
Oh my gosh, so many things. In some ways, it's hard to quickly and succinctly answer that question. You know, the first thing that comes to my mind for us being that very first class is that we kind of had this eldest sibling mentality, I think, all of us. And I don't want to speak for you, Mrs. Caddo, or put words into your mouth, but I can imagine for you, us being kind of your firstborn, and for many years, things that your visions and your dreams, those are things you've prayed for, seeing us walk through those first steps, those so many years, 10 years since we started in second grade, so many moments and milestones along the way. And I think being on the receiving end of that, everything felt special to us. I think being even, 6th grade, dressing up as Greek gods and goddesses for fairs, and then doing our first, 12th grade, our senior theses, and then getting to that point, graduation, it's like, wow, that felt big and weighty and very special. I think being on the receiving end of so many years of prayer and hope to see kind of how this great experiment would unfold. We always joked about being kind of the guinea pig class, the experiment to see what sticks and what works. And we're all just kind of in it together. So I think we had this eldest sibling mentality a little bit of, there is a bit of pressure. There's a little bit of what will you achieve? And both us as the students and the administration were kind of in this together. But also there was a sense of weightiness to me, not just about what you might achieve, but being a leader on campus as well. And being that older sibling that has to set a good example for the rest of your siblings or the other students on campus. So I think we felt held to a high standard, but also I felt very lucky. Everything felt very special and meaningful every step of the way.
Yeah, I think when thinking about what felt special about being in the first graduating class, I would say it felt special in a lot of ways, having been at Trinity since second grade. A lot of it was just what I knew. So in some ways, it's just normal, jumping around campuses or whatever it was.
That was school life to you.
Yeah, it was normal to me. It wasn't to everyone else. It might have been unique or strange or crazy, but to me it was normal to some degree. But at the very least, I think it was very special. And I appreciated when I was at Trinity that Mrs. Caddo and the teachers and stuff were honest with us that we're trying our best, and you guys might, this might be difficult or might be strange, or like we were very much aware as students, especially once we got into high school, that
we were making this up.
Well, no, that you were doing that you're doing your best, and that things might, at times just be a little different, or and I always felt that we were appreciated for being there, and a lot of that is more towards our parents for putting us in the school. But at the very least, I think if I was to boil it down to one thing, it felt special at the time, and it still feels special now to be able to look back and to have been able to be part of that and be part of so many firsts at Trinity. Yeah.
Are there any specific memories that you guys as a couple even still talk about, whether because they were very memorable, maybe they were hilarious? I'm just curious, like, what are the stories you still reminisce about?
Something that I think about often lately, especially because we'll go to the Newhall Farmers Market a lot, is, the first campus was on 15th Street in Newhall. Yeah. K through second. Yes. I think K through fourth eventually. We moved after sometime in between when I was in fourth grade. For a while there for PE class, we would line up, we'd walk out of the campus, we'd walk down the neighborhood to Newhall Park. Right. All of, I don't know however many there was, 20, 30 of us. And then we would do PE in Newhall Park where the Boys and Girls Club is, and play basketball, play soccer, play tag, whatever you did for PE at that age. But I always think back on that and just think how funny and unique that experience was. And even at the time as a kid, I remember like walking by and, there's like the houses with dogs that are like barking at you, and you're like,
this was part of school.
Yes. Well, right, because our little campus, and it was good that we had moved after fourth grade because you were all getting bigger. Right. And our little playground was the width of a hallway. Yeah. It's not very big. It's funny. I remember a couple of things in particular. Well, one, especially James, for some reason I have as a core memory that day you came in with your letter from Baylor that you had gotten in to Baylor. And that was our first college acceptance to have come.
Oh, wow.
And I remember we sat in the hallway and I grabbed him like, what? Really?
That's funny.
They actually believed you? Like,
we did it.
I know. That was, I just remember that.
And it's so funny because that goes back to me, just everything was normal. Like for me, I was just at school applying for colleges. That's what you do. Yes. Get an acceptance. And obviously just for me, like my first college acceptance was a big deal. I was very excited about that. But and hearing it from your perspective is so funny, like thinking about it now as like an adult and what it must have been like to start the school, have your first juniors and seniors and stuff, and then actually get the first college acceptance, be like, wow, it worked.
Yes, I know. That was our thought.
That's funny, yeah.
And this group was our first, definitely when we went to Italy, we were definitely figuring that all out together. I just remember.
In another country.
Yes, in another country. And there was a small group, and Dr. Horner was leading us, and he was figuring it out too. And I just remember several of the kids were like, haven't we passed this before? Like 3 times? Like, yes. We were trying to find our way back to the hostel.
Yes, I remember that.
We have figured out
like
a few more
30-minute walk
since.
or something because we kept looping around.
It took us forever.
You guys probably remember from your time here, and obviously for us, this is still paramount. This is still foundational for us as a school, but the spiritual and character formation of students is really a big part of school life. And I think for some, schools don't always acknowledge that or recognize that. But it goes beyond just what we fill our minds with. It goes beyond just the academic aspect, but it is shaping who we are as people. So when you zoom out now a decade later, when you think back on your time at Trinity, which parts of that would you say still show up in your life today? Lessons for you that maybe you didn't even know then, but now you look back and you're like, I learned, this aspect of life. I learned this aspect of my faith. I learned this aspect of who I was as a person. And maybe you're still learning that today. I think that's the case for all of us. But are there any specifics that when you think about that come to mind?
I always say to anyone that'll listen that growing up at Trinity, being able to study the Bible, talk openly about our faith, talk with our teachers who were more than just teaching us facts and things, but were really mentors for 12 years of our life, that I would not be spiritually, by the time I graduated high school, I would not have been who I was if I was at a public school or really anywhere else. To be able to every single day study the Bible, dive in deep to the Word, discuss with not just your peers, but mentors, your faith is richer. You have a deeper understanding of what you're learning. I mean, it's incomparable to me than if I had just, even if I had, gone to church, but then just, gone to public school and kind of did my own thing the rest of the time and wasn't really thinking about that, I would be in such a different place spiritually. That next step, you graduate high school and you're out into the world and you're facing, the brave unknown as all of a sudden an adult. And to have the tools in your arsenal spiritually of, I've really wrestled with these ideas. And it's not just that I've memorized literally whole books of the Bible at Trinity in 6th grade and memorizing the entire book of James. But again, wrestling with, what does this mean? And what is the historical context of this in this passage? These are things that, many adults don't even know or understand, or they have to really intentionally seek it out. So I've always been so grateful to Trinity, I think, first and foremost, because it did really shape me and my faith, allowed me to shape my faith in a way that was so much richer and deeper. And I just genuinely would not be who I am today without that at Trinity. And in addition to that as well, not so much a spiritual point, but I think the work ethic that you build at Trinity as a child, as a 17-year-old working on your senior thesis is incredible. It is amazing, the difference than I think what our peers were getting and practicing at other schools. I remember even, my very first week at college, one of my roommates, she was, she's from a very affluent, well-off community in Texas. And we had our first essay due that week. And she was crying at her desk because she had never written an essay.
Oh, goodness.
And I was like, oh my gosh, how'd you get to college? What are we doing here? And I sat with her and helped her work through it. And she was explaining to me that at her high school, it was just normal to cheat. And everyone just passed around the information and no one really had to use their brain, sadly. No one had to really think through and wrestle with these ideas that they were putting together. And I think having not just the, education, but also the work ethic to sit down, work through it, wrestle with it yourself and have that sort of the onus be on yourself and the responsibility to figure it out and get it done. That is the most applicable thing for the rest of your life that you'll take into your career, into your parenthood, everything.
I'm sure many times, was that one of the times that the story, your senior thesis story came out?
Oh, yes.
We have to write a 2-page paper? Well, let me tell you what I did.
Oh, I can't tell you how much I love bringing out the fact that, when I was a senior at Trinity, by the way, our senior thesis had to be 20 pages long. I think now they've dwindled down just a little bit. So it's not quite as, I don't want to say crazy, but intense. But I'm so proud of myself and us that we did that. It feels like the most amazing feat. And by the time we got to college, nothing was as difficult as a 20-page thesis that we had to not only write, but defend in front of the student body and the teachers as well.
And people that, not even teachers, there's
don't
other
even
guests
know.
too.
Random people.
Yes,
That's
come on in.
It's probably to this date, relative to everything I've done in my life, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Where I was like...
You're like, I can do this thing because I did a senior thesis.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's kind of the sentiment that we continue to hear from our students, that prepares them well for whatever they might face then at the next level.
Absolutely. It takes, I think, all the fear out of the things you go through in college and everything like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From a spiritual standpoint, the way that Trinity teaches the Bible through every aspect, through every subject that you learn, You can be in math and still be learning about God and the formation of the earth and how, I don't know, things like whatever. You can be in any subject and be learning about how, God's creation touches everything that we do in our lives. And I think that really shaped a lot of my worldview, to understand that the spirituality, Christianity isn't just on Sunday when you're at church. It's in every aspect of your life. When you're at work, when you're with your family, when you're in nature, you can see God in everywhere. And I think for me that first unlocked something in my brain when I was at Trinity. And I don't know that otherwise, if it would have, maybe it would have, but I definitely give Trinity a lot of credit for that worldview that I have from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, that it's not just this separate entity.
Right.
That it really is all-encompassing.
Our whole person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have touched on this already a little bit, but maybe you could speak more to the fact of how Trinity helped prepare you for life beyond these walls. As you said, the great unknown, you get out there and it can seem scary, whether that's college or now with careers and parenting and life and all of that type of stuff. How do you think your time at Trinity shaped you for that and uniquely prepared you really for where you are today, for everything that the Lord has called you to?
I think for me, I would say, if I were to boil it down, I'd say Trinity taught me how to think critically and how to do hard things. And I think, again, having been at Trinity my whole childhood, pretty much up through graduating high school, a lot of that was normal for me, doing Latin in 3rd or 4th grade, starting at that, doing the senior thesis, all those types of things. It made college, I wouldn't say it made college easy, but I wasn't scared of it. Same thing when I went to go get my first job, interviewing. When I look back at the things I've done so far in my life and my career, I haven't shied away from the hard things in life that may be easy to escape from. Even in our personal life, getting married young. We got married at 21. Not a lot of, maybe in the Christian community, that's maybe a little more normal, but we were in love, we wanted to get married. So it was exciting, but also like getting married young comes with challenges and it can be difficult. Now being parents and having kids, there's difficulties with that in terms of parenting could be quote unquote easy if you just throw on YouTube or TV and let them,
at least in the immediate, but there are long-term effects.
No, exactly. And so choosing to do the hard thing and limit screen time or those types of decisions as a parent, I feel like those types of things and not being afraid of the challenges that come with choosing those hard things, I feel like that's a trickle-down effect from being raised in a community at Trinity where we were encouraged to do hard things.
Doing hard things is normal.
Right.
And actually there is great, as you both have acknowledged, there's great reward on the other side of that hard, and it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
At Trinity, being somewhere where they care about the whole person and not just your academics and your achievements, I think everything that we did, whether it was sports, academics, arts, anything, there was also the importance of your integrity along the way in everything that you did. And I think you were held to a high standard among your peers and in your work and in everything you did. And that is something that, again, by the time I'm 17, 18, going off to college now, taking that into my schooling, all the jobs I picked up in college, everything along the way, it was amazing to have wrestled with all of these things when I was so young. It was amazing to have wrestled with all that when I was younger, again, so that by the time I'm dealing with even bigger, harder situations, I guess you would say, where it's all on you. You don't have your parents, you don't have teachers to help you through these sort of life crises. You already have that practice and discipline of integrity that you have been building for years. And I recall even one of my first big girl jobs. I was in New York City working for a big deal wardrobe fashion stylist. And I remember my boss, my new boss at the time, continually being floored because I did what I said what I was going to do. I showed up on time. I was a hard worker. And things that, again, to me felt like, isn't that bare minimum? Isn't that normal? Isn't that what you do? And for her, she had been through so many employees that did not have integrity, that weren't a person of their word. And I think that was really eye-opening to me, that at Trinity, that's what we expect. That is part of the deal. And then you go out in the world and it makes a big difference to be someone with integrity, and people notice. And that made a big difference to me in my career along the way, being even just appreciated around me for my character. And I think that is, to me now, looking as a parent and thinking about my daughter, that's the most important thing to me, is that she's somewhere where we care about not just that she gets A+, B+, but that she has a strong character, a strong moral compass, and that everyone else is on board watching her, thinking about her, and holding her to that standard and teaching her the disciplines of what that means to be someone of integrity and have a moral compass.
I was just going to say, it's odd as parents, like we all experience which Liz, you know this better than I, but like it's a slow letting go. You know, they're yours and they're not.
Scary.
And so for you, but even as parents, like for all of us, we want to know, I want to know that my children are around people, just like you're saying, that are guiding them and challenging them and pointing them in the same vein as what you want.
Yes.
And that you can trust that. And obviously you guys know that uniquely because you have firsthand experience in that. And so you know what you would want for your children and for your family as well. So
well, and we talk about that in regards to regularly, how we say it's a journey with our parents, with our students, how it takes the whole time, the ups and downs along the way. And hopefully you felt known when you were here.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
maybe too well.
Yeah, well,
deeply known, yes. I think about this often actually because the being known part is absolutely vital. Step number one. I think I one of my biggest fears is imagining her going onto like a public school campus and
no one knows her.
No one knows who she is and no one sees her.
Or not enough people.
No,
right?
Most, I would say, when you have 2,000 students on a campus, you cannot be known by everybody. And in contrast, that was never my experience growing up at Trinity. I mean, number one, to any parents listening, if you've ever visited Trinity, I'm sure you've met Mrs. Caddo. And something that has blown me away my entire life is that Mrs. Caddo knows the name of every single student on this campus every single year. How many years has she been doing this? 25 years? 26 years going in? And she can walk on the campus and, hi, Sarah, how you doing? And it's not just that you know the names of everybody, but I remember every single year you pull every single student for a happy birthday prayer. You not just know them, but you're praying over them. I remember getting a little candy. That was extra nice. But that was so meaningful and impactful to me that, I mean, we're talking from the top down, someone who has, arguably 20,000 more important things to do on her plate in one single day. And you're walking around the campus, pulling students from class and letting them know that they matter here. And every single person matters here. And every adult that is in this campus knows who they are and is not just knowing who they are, but praying over them. And that was so powerful to me as a kid. And that was just a tiny way of being known, again, from the top down. The head honcho, so to speak, knows every single person's name on this campus. And that is the feeling of being at Trinity, is you are known. Everyone is seen and known, and all of the administration and the coaches, they're all supporting you and knowing you in different ways. And that is unlike anywhere else. I mean, you could not possibly get that at a massive school, a massive public school. And it's absolutely incredible what that does, I think, internally as a student, to feel, when you feel known, you feel safe. And then when you feel safe, I think you can explore, not just academically explore ideas and feel like you're held in a place where it's safe to think out of the box, but also to challenge yourself. And whether that is in sports or the arts or otherwise.
A lot of people, when it comes to private schools and stuff, they care about class sizes, the student-teacher ratio. And I think all of that is important because you can be better known with that. Yeah. But you're not better known. Like, it takes a faculty and administration to actually put in the work to know those students. Yeah. You could have a 10 to...
Just not about the numbers.
Right. Yeah, you have a 10 to 1 class size, but if a teacher doesn't care, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be known in the way that they need to be. And I feel like the administration, the faculty, everyone that's involved does truly have a heart for being here and caring about the students.
We did have to pass the birthday thing on and have that look a little bit differently now.
We still do pieces of that looks different.
Use pieces.
For grammar school now, it's donuts.
Oh,
Yes.
donuts.
Everyone loves
A
donuts.
big
But
hit.
they come to my office and they get a donut and a birthday card, and we get a little conversation and stuff. But we had to scale it a little bit.
Yes. I didn't know if that was still happening, but it's, again, even donuts with Dixon is something that you can't get at a big 2,000 student public school. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We are still doing our discipleship groups. And I do think, especially for our older students, still doing Catalina, and we're even shaping that a little bit differently now for it to be a little more. We have the spiritual aspect of it, but it's just with 7th and 8th grade. And that's been a great add. And then, of course, spiritual emphasis camps and the craziness there.
Oh my gosh, the most fun week of the year.
So all those help to our faculty knowing who our kids are. And knowing, like you were saying, not just knowing names, but knowing what's happening for that student, for that little to big individual. I hope that for our school always. I know you guys met and, journeyed through Trinity together, but then you went separate places, but then back together. Can you share a little bit of, your story with us?
Yeah, I was going to say, in the spirit of being known.
Yeah.
We still want to know.
So we both graduated. I started here in 6th grade, and we graduated 12th grade together, and then we
James
went
started
off.
second.
I started
Right?
second.
Yeah.
Yes,
Second grade,
James was a founding member, basically.
And we now make up 20% of our graduating class.
Yes, we graduated, being the first graduating class. We had 10.
Do you remember when Beth first started? Like, do you remember that? Was that a formative day for you?
No, I'm sure not. No.
I remember it. It wasn't, I can't say it was a love at first sight type thing when I was 12, but but I do remember, because she was only one of maybe a couple new students. And girls, exactly.
Yeah, new students are very impactful at Trinity.
You get a new student in your class, and it's like a big deal at that time.
Yeah.
So definitely remember it.
Yeah. And then we graduated, and as James said, only 10 in our graduating class. So many formative years together. And then James went to Hillsdale in Michigan, Hillsdale College. I went to college in New York City called the King's College. And
we had dated in high school a little bit, just how things are off and on for, starting around sophomore year in high school through the end. And then when we went off to college, we were broken up at the time. So we went our separate places, tried to live life on our own outside of Trinity and
tried
Santa
to be
Clarita.
very mature, I will say, for a 17-year-old or two 17-year-olds, because we were saying at the time, like, this is high school. We're going off to college. We're going to the big world. Like, we shouldn't have any expectation that this is going to work. So let's we'll hang this up now, go our separate ways.
For the record, I did not want to do that.
It is on the record.
It wasn't exactly a mutual.
Everyone knows.
It wasn't completely mutual.
Yes, okay, maybe it was more me.
Beth was trying to be very mature.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so, yes, much to James's chagrin, we kind of tried to go our separate ways as adults and do our own thing in different places. After some time, even trying to date other people.
Not me.
Maybe not James.
James is tried and true here. Sense a theme.
So after about 6 to 8 months, there was this, and I know in the grand scheme that's not very long, but I quickly noticed after meeting a bunch of different people that something, not just that James himself was special to me, but that something about growing up together and wrestling with big ideas, philosophically, spiritually, that was like a fast track of things that a relationship could go through and wrestle with, even if we hadn't been adult wrestling with big problems and crises, but we had really philosophically wrestled with what so many things in life meant to us, and our faith especially, which is, the foundation of everything that we believe and how that affects everything we do as people and then in a marriage and as parents down the road. And so for me, there was that connection and that being on the same page of what we believe that was very hard to replicate with other 18-year-olds who did not have the same sort of upbringing that James and I had. And I sort of quickly realized that James and I were just so aligned, and I couldn't stop thinking about him. And I quickly found out
he couldn't stop either. Yeah, as we all know.
Exactly.
Now, on the record.
Yes, on the record. So we ended up kind of reaching back out to each other and doing long distance for about a year and a half.
Yeah, it took us one semester of college. We got back together winter break our freshman year in college.
Yeah. And then after a year and a half-ish, he transferred to my school in New York, and we finished school off there together, got married at 21, and have been living ever since.
Yeah, here you are.
So what I'm hearing is, if you come to Trinity, you'll meet your spouse. It may be bumpy along the way. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a guarantee.
Because we are not the only ones, by the way.
That's
We're not the only Trinity married couple.
My family's testament to that as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's why I really
Very
do
much
believe
so.
there is something to, because you're wrestling with questions like, what is man? Who is God? Who am I in relation to God? What is my purpose? I mean, these are things there are people who don't even think about that till they're on their deathbed. And if you are 15, 16, 17, 18, wrestling with those big questions, you are setting yourself up in a way for so much, I don't want to say success, it's not about success, but you've just thought through in a deep way more than most people certainly have at that age.
You now have like a higher standard
Yes.
in some ways.
That very much so. That was very much my point of 18-year-olds that I met. Otherwise, we're not thinking about those things.
Well, I think also, if I were to think of like something that someone might criticize about Trinity, they might say, oh, you're in your bubble. You have your safety net, your bubble of a small school with people that you've known your whole life if you've been at the school for a long time and things like that. But I think that like because we're wrestling with big ideas, even though you might be able to call Trinity like a Christian bubble or something like that, going out into the real world, going to college, now being older in careers and stuff, that foundation stays with you. And I think that both Beth and I having that foundation, again, that wasn't even something that we even like talked about. It's like, oh, you and I have the same foundation, so let's get married. It was just natural, obviously. But I think like just because it wasn't like we were coming back and we wanted to be back in that safety net bubble. It was just that like we, in this safe space where we were able to wrestle with big ideas, we had a shared foundation in our worldview, spirituality, all those things. Which
that you're carrying into life and would value in a partner.
Absolutely.
For life.
Absolutely. Yeah. If very much so for me it is the most important, attractive thing in a partner is that we have the same foundational beliefs so that I know no matter what, if he changes his interests and hobbies along the way over 10 years of marriage, at least at the core, what's helping us guide our decision making is the same. It's the same foundation. And that was very important to me. And at 18, I could recognize that.
Yeah.
As parents, how now on the side of it, and Millie's going to be starting school, well, what are some of the things that you're hoping for that were part of your formation, especially in your learning, that you'll want to make sure Millie has as well?
I think something that I've been trying to implement kind of in the same vein of doing hard things is being at Trinity. I really learned that just because someone's a kid doesn't mean that they can't be pushed to try something that's difficult, learning Latin or things like that. And so far with Millie in parenthood, I've kind of tried to take that approach with things where, she's 1.5, but there's no reason she can't start learning her ABCs and learning what the sounds of the letters make and stuff. And I think that we've seen her blossom with having that type. And it's not like we're, drilling her like, what sound does A make, but just like in normal life, like like if I'm working, like, I work from home right now, and if I'm on my work laptop and Millie comes up and she like wants to type on my computer, I'll take a little 5-minute break, let her type on like a Word document. But instead of just blindly typing, I'll be like, all right, let's try and spell daddy, or let's try and spell moose.
Yeah.
Our dog's name.
I was like, that's pretty random. Moose.
And she might not be able to sit down and spell daddy right now, but she has the foundation for it, and she's learning those things at a really young age. And so I think continuing that with her, having seen that, seeing her blossom, her mind blossom at such a young age, just from doing those types of things at home, I would love to see her be in an environment in the future where she's also being pushed for the bigger and better things as well.
And mainly I was going to say, it's just because she can.
Yeah.
Like, she can.
That's right.
Exactly.
She can be challenged in this way. And, young kids and students can do those things.
And kids, they want to learn. They have a yearning to learn and know what we know. And I think that is also a hallmark of classical education, is basically to instill this love of learning, and that we will be learning for the rest of our lives, and not to have that onus on someone else to teach us, but to basically instill and create a love of learning, a desire to learn and to seek out and wrestle with things even on our own, that it's very, and not to say independent, but it has built, and you kind of flex this muscle of learning, loving to learn, and disciplining yourself to wrestle with how to learn, basically.
So I'm curious, what would you say if there was a family that was considering Trinity right now, or maybe there's a current family who are in some of those hard things that you guys talked about, and they're like, man, can my kid do this? Is this worth it? What would you want them to know from your perspective as alumni, sitting on the other side of it, and now being 10 years out of it? What would you say to them?
I think for me, I would say that I wouldn't have wanted to have a different experience than what I had at Trinity. I think given all the hard things, like we talked about the senior thesis, but even being like, the house system was implemented our senior year. So we were the first house captains of our respective houses.
Figuring it out.
And figuring that out. Like, I didn't necessarily want, if I'm being completely honest, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't have wanted to be a house captain, just because it was one more thing to do on top of already having the senior thesis and all that stuff going into my senior year. But, with some encouragement from my parents and maybe Mrs. Cato and different,
some prodding.
Probably.
It was, looking back on it, I'm glad to have done that, even though as a 17-year-old kid, that wasn't like on the top of my priority list of things that I wanted to do going into my senior year. So I think like that, having that encouragement to step out of your comfort zone and try new things, like I look back on those 13 years later fondly and happy to have done those and have had that experience. Like a little thing when we were at the homecoming football game, and I went up to the Patrick House table, and they had a little trivia thing where you like spin the wheel and you get a trivia. And one of the questions was, who was the first house captain of Patrick House? And I got the question. And I was like, oh, that was me. And like, just like, that's just a little thing. That's just a funny little story, but it's like, I am proud of myself for having done those things. I'm proud to look back and have been able to help pioneer and kind of trailblaze some of those things as well. And so I think for parents that are considering Trinity or that are in the thick of it now, I do think it is worth it. And I'm as someone that was at Trinity and is now removed for over 10 years, I think like maybe if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, maybe I would have been less nostalgic about it or something like that. But as I've gotten older, and now that I have my own kids and all those things, I'm really thankful for it, and wouldn't have had it any other way if I could go back and choose.
The house system, I just have to say, I am the most passionate person about the house system.
Go Dante.
Yes, go Dante. I was one of the first captains for Dante. The house system, I think, one of the most impactful and special things about Trinity, about a classical school system in general. The college I went off to after Trinity also was classically influenced and had a house system as well. And I was on leadership within that house system there as well. So I have many years of house system, not just leadership, but passion under my belt. And to parents considering Trinity maybe, the house system makes and creates a culture that is also so different than any other place you could send your child. The first founding principle of the house system is that you have no control of where you're placed into it. It is exactly like the day you are born into your family. You have no control who your parents are, who your siblings are, and you have to learn to wrestle with the people who are in your family who might think differently than you, might have different interests than you. And when you're in the house system, so you might be a 12th grader about to graduate, but you are in this house with a 9th grader. So you're not only working and interacting with grades younger than you, you are given this chance to build camaraderie through competition first and foremost, which is really the best way to pull off your pride. I think when you're on a team with your team members, you need that person. You need that person to help you win. You need that person to help you achieve something. And suddenly what you think of them coming into this experience has washed away. And now that person is your family and that's your team member and you need them. And I think that is another, oh my gosh, incredible opportunity to build integrity, camaraderie, and change your outlook on people and experiences in the rest of your life. As a parent, if you want your kid to be known, if you're worried they won't fit in somewhere at another school, just the house system alone is one of the best ways that your kid will be known, accepted, and appreciated for who they are.
I think one more thing that I was thinking about as well is just the classical model of teaching, which with the grammar school, then the logic school, then rhetoric school. As a student, I was Trinity made it very much known to me that about the reasons for why we do that, learning the foundations of grammar, learning how to put together an argument, and then learning how to speak that argument and defend it. And I think that gave me as a student purpose in school. I think a lot of times for kids, you can go to school and be like, why do I have to be here? Like, this is so dumb. I don't want to be here. But having that overarching purpose for learning, from understanding the foundations of it, being able to formulate, and then being able to defend it. I think that...
You saw the trajectory.
Yeah, I think it for me as someone that, I wasn't the most academically inclined. I did well, but I didn't love academics per se. But at the very least, I understood that there was a purpose to it. And I think that helped me want to...
It wasn't a waste.
To be involved. It wasn't, exactly. It wasn't a waste of time. So that's something also I think for parents to consider.
Thank you guys for sharing all of that. And I think those types of things for you are helpful for parents to hear, especially as you're starting your journey. I was curious, one last question is when you think of the possible things that maybe Trinity imparted or gave you over the time that you were here, what is possibly one thing that has carried you through and you're still using in life now or will continue to use in life? Like, what's possibly something that, you're still benefiting from?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is critical thinking. A classical school, the classical model of education like you find at Trinity, sets you up how to learn. It sets you up to think critically and to wrestle with big ideas and questions. You're not just memorizing facts. You're not just checking boxes in your education. You're really grappling with philosophical, spiritual, big questions. And I think that is foundational to what I came out with at Trinity. And that is something I take into absolutely everything I do, not just career, but as a parent, as a human, politically, things that the world is throwing at you, the ability to pause and to not just kind of accept what someone else has given you as quote unquote the facts, the truth, whatever it is they want to tell you that this is the way. You are able to break apart those concepts, think critically, use logic instead of emotion to come to a decision and wrestle with, well, what is that really true, and what does the Bible have to say about that? Again, having years of experience, not just reading the Bible, but wrestling with what the Word of God says
and what that means today.
Exactly. And how that matters today with what we're dealing with in the world. So many people have lost the art of how to communicate to each other, how to debate ideas. You come to Thanksgiving, you come to the table and don't talk about politics, don't talk about philosophy, don't talk about anything, because you come in and it's just assumed, well, I think this, I think that, and we're not going to talk about it. And I think at Trinity, I have loved that over the years, I can have a respectful, meaningful conversation with anyone, and it's not emotional. It doesn't have to be heated. And I think that sort of critical thinking, logical thinking I carry it with me everywhere today. And it's more valuable than ever when everyone around you is losing that ability to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I think the critical thinking is something that I see almost every day, whether it's in church or reading politics or, and just daily interactions with people. I think learning to agree to disagree is one of the most important things I learned in like 7th or 8th grade, which is like, you have to come to the table. If you're going to have an argument, you have to come to the table willing to agree that you're going to disagree. You can't have walls up to have a productive conversation in that sense. And not cut off the other person relationally just because you don't agree on something so particular. Like, I have plenty of friends that we may not see eye to eye from a politics standpoint or something, but we can have a fruitful conversation and maybe we won't agree at the end, but we'll still be friends. I'm not going to be cutting off people over politics, things like that. Also on top of that, if someone wants to like throw out an argument that like, oh, well, the Bible says this, and they give me like one verse, it's like, all right, I'm not going to take that one verse as like meaning
what's the context?
Right? Yeah. What's the context of that? And understand, being able to like take, it doesn't have to be just the Bible, like any book or any article or any, just understanding things that are being thrown at us as adults now. And especially in the world of social media and stuff where who knows what's true or not true, but just being able to like think for myself and not be a follower in that sense.
That's great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, James and Beth, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure to be able to have a conversation with you. And I just want to give a plug. If you want to hear more from them, you can check out Trinity's 25th anniversary documentary, which you guys are on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's really fun to see. So that, and some of those chapters have already come out, and some will still be released throughout the rest of this year. But James and Beth, just thank you again for your time. And Millie,
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Different by Design. To learn more about Trinity Classical Academy, visit us at trinityclassicalacademy.com. And for more information about our approach to classical Christian education, be sure to check out the conversations over at the Classical Academy podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and share. Until next time.